had a great talk with him last night about just his time there in Nebraska. And I said, I see Taylor as a Pitt commit, and he's a 6'5", 280-pound guy that probably plays anywhere from guard potentially out to like right tackle. He's not really a great or strong pass blocker, but a heck of a run blocker and really quick. But I said to him, how quickly were you already thinking about decommitting from Pitt and committing to Nebraska? And he said, as early as Friday night. He'd been literally in town for hours, and he was already thinking that Nebraska was the place where he wanted to go. But it took a conversation. He wanted to have a conversation with Coach Bo Pelini, and Coach Bo Pelini really sealed the deal for him again. So again, very similar story like with Greg Hart a week ago. Coach Bo Pelini, a little time in the office, a little time to sit down with parents and the recruit. Bo is doing a great job closing guys out this year. There's no question. There's definitely a higher emphasis is when those guys are getting ready to depart, get them in the office there for the last hour and a half before they take off, and try to squeeze them a little bit, or at least see if they're interested in coming to Nebraska.
Brian, I think some recruit nicks aren't overly excited. They think, well, he's a 3-star. He was committed to Pitt. But if you look at his video, he is mauling people. And also, you have to take into account that he's recruited by Paul Chryst, one of the best offensive line coaches in America. He must have saw something in this guy.
Well, you have to consider who, Chryst, being associated with Wisconsin, obviously, and what Wisconsin's been able to put on the field. And I think you got to go even one step further, guys. Look at the two guys that came out from Wisconsin this last year. Peter Kahns, Kevin Zeitler, was that the other one?
Yep.
Was recruited really high, or drafted really highly in the NFL draft. I believe that's his last name. Both those guys, kind of the same rural type situation as Samuelson. Not very highly regarded, not very highly recruited, but go to a Big Ten program and put in the work. And when you get done, you go from a 3-star guy, somebody that might call you a diamond in the rough, so to speak, to first or second round draft pick in the NFL 4 or 5 years later. That says a lot, and I think that people could make, people just sit there and doubt where he's ranked at right now. Number one, the area where he's from doesn't help out. It's not a highly recruited area. So for a team like Nebraska to go in there and follow up on a lead on this guy, that's saying something. They were doing their homework. They weren't just broadly combing through northern Indiana. They knew about him. They had to go double-check him out. So I think people need to give us a little bit more time. I talked to the Scout.com Midlands recruiting manager, Alan True, last night. Dan is about ready to be reevaluated. I think he'll probably remain a 3-star for now, but I know he's going to go up in the rankings as far as the position is concerned.
He's Bryan Munson, Big Red Report Magazine, BigRedReport.com, joining Gaskins and Stevens here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm John Gaskins. He is Recruit Nick Tom Stevens.
Well, you mentioned that Bo is getting a little more aggressive with this class. Are you feeling that all the coaches are trying to lock guys down when they make their visit to campus?
Well, I think that there's definitely an emphasis being put out there about, you're one of our guys. We're not out there just blindly offering and blanketing out offers. I mean, there was a lot of deciding and decision and evaluating that went into offering you in the first place. And I think that when the recruits, because I've heard that a number of times, like you talk to a recruit, they say, well, Nebraska says they take a lot longer to offer guys because they're not just going out there and carpet bombing the entire country and giving everybody offers. They're evaluating everybody. Well, when a player tells you that, or a recruit tells you that, it means at least it's stuck in their head that Nebraska's given a lot more thought about who they want to be part of their team, and at least there's a value then in the offer. I think from that then, guys, the key has been this season getting those guys on campus, getting them in for an unofficial visit, and really I think it's been more of a, it's like more of a vacation. Come in here, be comfortable. We're not going to take you through the door, and at 8:15 we got to be in this room, at 8:45 we got to be here, and then an hour later we got to be back. No, it's come in here, let's talk. Let's get you comfortable. And I know, like we're talking to Greg Hart last week, they didn't even have a chance to see the facilities until the second day when they got to Lincoln. Typically, that's the first thing you want to do. Bring me in there, show me the building, show me all the weights.
Yeah.
Not now. They're getting the people interested in the players now.
That's very interesting. Bryan Munson joining us from Big Red Report Magazine, BigRedReport.com here on Gaskins and Stevens, 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Who's next? I mean, I know I've read some of your tweets and some of your articles, they'll be having guys coming in around June 11th, June 12th, and then there's going to be a junior day June 16th. I mean, who's next on the list? Who's the radar?
I kind of like Kevin Gladney right here, wide receiver from Ohio, kind of keeping that offensive little snowball effect that Nebraska has going. You know, they got 2 in a row after not having any in the first 6. Gladney is a nice receiver. He's got some nice offers. He's coming in June 11th. Might stick around over that junior day Big Red Weekend time frame. Good friends, Courtney Love. Courtney Love has been recruiting Kevin Gladney, so there's some communication going on there between Nebraska commitments and recruits that are considering Nebraska there in Ohio. I'm going to say Kevin Gladney.
At one time, Nebraska fans thought, or at least recruitniks thought, that Joe Mathis might be close to recruiting. I think he was close with Sue Cravens, the 5-star safety that Nebraska is really, really interested in. Are either of those guys? I've read earlier this week that Sue Cravens might be backing off, doesn't have Nebraska in his Final Four. What about Mathis?
I think Mathis, I've talked with his coach out there in Upland, Mike Escobar. I exchanged text messages with him quite a bit. I know that Joe Mathis really, really likes Nebraska. I think that there was some concern, at least, by the number of defensive ends and defensive linemen that Nebraska has brought in already. I mean, I think the A.J. Natter commitment kind of caught them off guard a little bit. I don't think it's going to deter Joe Mathis from going anywhere, but I think at least that's been brought up into the conversation now. I think Joe Mathis has got Nebraska in his top 3, top 4, but I really see Joe Mathis as being a very, very difficult pull to get out of California. And with the type of player like Sue Cravens and the relationship that he has there, I think Cravens is all but a lock for USC at this point, and I think that's going to weigh into Mathis's decision.
But I know Nebraska is really wanting a quarterback in this class, and most of their top targets have chosen at least to commit elsewhere for now. What's left on the board?
Well, you got 2 down here in Dallas, in my area, in my neck of the woods. You got Dallas Skyline, Devontae Kincaid, and you have Damian Hobbs over there from Cedar Hill. So Cedar Hill, originally the high school for Anthony Blue as well, who Nebraska dipped into Texas to get about 4 or 5 years ago now. I think that those are really the top 2 guys. I think that the bad news is there, after talking to both those guys last week, and I will have stories coming up here very quickly on both those guys. There's just been so many other things to cover. I think the bad part with those 2 guys is I'm not sure either one of them are very enamored with the Nebraska offer. And I'm not sure if it's because the process is just kind of picking up for them and they're getting more attention, or if they're just generally just not as interested as some of the other guys that were there before, like a Bailey, who really seemed to be interested in Nebraska and pulled a fast one and went to Illinois. So I think you start looking at those 2 guys down in Dallas right now.
Bryan, you're in Dallas, and we appreciate your time. We always love talking to you up here in Lincoln, and we hope you come to Lincoln sometime soon. We'd love to see you and hang out and talk about things. But not that we don't love talking about Nebraska football recruiting, but you seem like a good guy to get to know. We could talk about other things.
Well, I would really like to do that. That means I'm back home in my backyard, and I would be. I look forward to that day of getting back up there to talk to you guys in person.
Don't count on Gaskins paying for a dinner or a beverage, though.
Well, I didn't say that. That's
never going to happen.
Don't read into
that's
that.
That's never going to happen.
All right. Thanks, Bryan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Follow his stuff at BigRedReport.com and follow him on Twitter at BigRedBryan, BRYAN.